There is a difference between your identity and your behavior.
True, very true.
You know, your behavior is what you're expressing in that moment, reacting to the other person.
Yeah, quite possible, yes.
Right? Or reacting to the situation. It's your behavior never happens in a vacuum. It always happens in groups.
Hello and welcome. Welcome to another episode of Winner's Talk. And as you know, in this Winner Talk, we connect with the experts from all over the world to help you grow your professionals and business skills. Now, my name is Nilesh Vaksavde. I'm also known as Success Coach Nilesh. And the reason we formed this group was to connect, collaborate, and cultivate the professionals and business skills. And as promised, today we have one more expert, sought after expert, who will be talking us about the leadership and diversity, and how we can all of us have some invisible potential, so how we can unleash that invisible potential and make the best use of that. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr.
Yeah. Hi.
Yes.
And I'm so sorry about my dogs in the back. That's
he wants to say hello at the same time, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
Yes. So let's go ahead. So guys, let me quickly introduce to Dr. Aparajita. Yes. So Dr. Aparajita Jeedigunta is a two-time traumatic brain injury survivor who is now a sought-after leadership coach. She is an award-winning leadership strategist, consultant, trainer, and coach. She is the founder of AJ Rao LLC, a boutique firm whose motto is making the invisible visible for better belongingness. Companies hire Dr. AJ when the status quo, best practices don't work for them. On the corporate end, she works with leadership teams to help them create, customize, and comprehensive solutions in their culture and operations. And on the individual side, high performance with big dreams also hire her to help them radically increase their leadership presence, impact, and income, while permanently eliminating the misery of being overworked and underappreciated. And I believe that is the very, 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 very important skill. So Dr. AJ, thank you so much for joining us again, and get this interview started. Can you please talk us through about when you say your motto, making invisible visible? So can you help us understand what that exactly means?
Absolutely. And once again, thank you so much for having me.
It's our pleasure, actually.
So fantastic. So making the invisible visible actually came about after my second traumatic brain injury, which was very severe. And I actually, left my body. Okay. And experienced, momentary death. So when they brought me back, my brain was so scrambled. I didn't even know my own name. I didn't know my mom and dad's names. I sort of felt this like familial connection, like I should know them, but nothing was making sense to me. And in retrospect, looking back on it, it gave me this incredible opportunity to rebuild my life exactly how I wanted to, without all of these expectations being put on me, especially being an Indian American, and being of Indian heritage. We get so much from our families and our parents and our elders about you should do this, you should do that, you ought to do this is the right way for you, that is the right way for you. And in the middle of that, oftentimes what our purpose is, what we feel like we are put on this planet to do, we forget about that. It gets lost because there's so many voices coming at us. And that was my experience when I was, in recovering and rebuilding my life, figuring out who I was, figuring out what I wanted to do. Since I already had a big accident, my family left me alone. Finally, they said, "You know what? You survived this horrible thing. Do whatever you want after now." So it afforded me that freedom, and that's when I realized it started with me. When I realized, wow, all of these messages for my whole life until now, and I was 26 then. So for 26 years, all of these messages I was following things that other people expected me to do. I, thought I wanted to be a medical doctor. I thought I wanted to do this or that or something else. And it made me realize how much all of these messages rendered me the person, me the individual, me, like if for anybody who's Hindu and they believe in those, they've read like, any scriptures, the idea that the divine is within us, the idea that our power is within us and that
Yes.
Brahman is within us, the universe is within us, all of that got rendered invisible. And on a very real level, I didn't know my own leadership skills. I didn't know my, if I was confident on my own or because somebody else said I was a good student. I didn't know any of these things. So I unpacked all of those and I figured it out. Once I figured that out, I started, it's one of those things, right? When you learn something new, you start noticing it everywhere around you.
Exactly. Correct.
Right? So that's when I started noticing, oh, it wasn't just me. It wasn't just Indians. It was people. It was humans. We get all of these messages from the world around us,
Correct.
telling us what we should be, what we ought to be, what we should not do, all of those. And then we internalize those messages and we create these stories in our head about our capabilities. Oh, no, no, no,
Yes, very true.
you
At
know?
subconscious level, they don't understand that these are messaging is happening, and unknowingly we get trained by that.
Right? Because we keep repeating them over and over and over again. And
Exactly.
the first time we fail at anything, see, I knew it. I knew it. I
I
knew
knew
I
it.
shouldn't have
Yeah.
tried. That's really what making the invisible visible, making your invisible visible is about, is realizing, cut all of these messages out. Stop telling the stories you've learned from other people about you. If you want to be the hero of your own journey, you have to write your story. You have to look inward, do that inner work, uh, figure out what these messages are, where they're coming from. You don't have to ignore them or disrespect the people who are giving you those messages, but put them aside to figure out who you are and what your
Correct.
capabilities are, where your source of confidence is within you, and how you can use that to be who you need to be a leader, to have the impact you want to have, to fulfill the purpose that you want to fulfill in life. Whether that's being a CEO of a company, a nonprofit, or, some kind of hotshot superstar actor, singer, whatever it may be, artist, whatever. It has to come from within you, not from the messages around you. So that's really what making the invisible visible is, because it allows you to see your whole self without judgment. When you
Right.
are
Right.
able to see your whole self without judgment and still be able to love yourself objectively,
Very important thing.
you
Yes.
know, that's when you can be the leader you need to be. That's when you can show up as the best version of yourself. That's when you have the confidence in a promotion meeting to say, hey, I've done this. And I know I can stand behind my work and I deserve that promotion. I deserve that raise. I deserve that job. I am, an extremely capable worker, not because of my technical skill set, but because of this and because of my
Right.
drive and my confidence in who I am as a person.
Right. Thank you so much, Dr. AJ. It's very important perspective, looking after, what really you are made up of, and, start shining, let your light shine, we say. Now, that brings me to a very important question, because sometimes most of the people, they're afraid of being yourself. So what do you say to them, how they can, get rid of that fear or overcome that fear to
Okay,
really look after their shine their visible.
absolutely. That's actually a really great question. Um, I'll respond with a scenario.
Okay, please.
So let's say I tell you, you know, let's say I say, we have a session and I say, well, what's coming up? Here are some things that you can look into for you to start exploring what it is that you're truly made of. And you say, no, I'm afraid. Okay, so you are in this position right now, in this moment in space and time, right? What is the worst thing that could happen if you just stepped into that fear,
Mhm.
right? You may learn something about yourself.
Right.
If you didn't step into that fear, you're still exactly where you are, miserable, just, overworked, underappreciated, kind of feeling like, man, I feel like I'm made for more, but I'm terrified of finding out what that is. So is it really a fear you have, or just uncertainty of what you may find?
I guess, yeah, you're right. For most of us, it's like uncertainty. And, let's say we name it as a fear, as a generic term, maybe.
So I think it's important to label that properly first. Now that it's an uncertainty, okay, but this is not something with any sort of expected outcome, right? You're not about to find out more about yourself to realize you have some kind of magical singing ability or acting ability or magic powers, like from the ancient movies and like all the mythological stuff. It's about you finding your confidence. I mean, you could have a secret singing ability, I don't know, that could be what you find out, but the thing is, you're not going into it expecting that, right?
Right.
So you're not going into it expecting any sort of outcome. You're just saying, okay, let me go down this road and see what happens. I know
Right.
I'm
Right.
going to
Right.
learn something. I just don't know what I'm going to learn. So in that case, there is even no need for uncertainty, because again, uncertainty is in cases if, uncertainty happens when it's like, oh, I don't know if this is going, option A is going to happen, or option B, or option C. You're not putting any options on the place. You're not putting any options in the works. This is really about you being curious. Like
Right.
when children are curious and they ask all of those questions, they're not expecting answers.
No,
But
yeah,
as
they're only
you,
asking, yeah.
yeah, and they're okay with whatever answer they get. They're happy with whatever answer they get. They have 10 more questions after that, right? Leaning into that mindset of a child, because all of us were that way when we were kids, no
Yes.
matter where. It's only when we went through our schooling and became adults and were expected to be adults that we started questioning ourselves. So if you ever want to think about how to find out more about yourself and how to be confident doing that, think about a child. Think about that toddler who does not care and just asks without filters. And those questions have 10 more questions and then 10 more questions. The more questions you ask, the more confident you're going to get.
Right. That's very good. So, is there any method or any certain steps we can follow to figure out what might be our hidden potential?
Absolutely. Um, you know, definitely first look inward. But when I say that, so the overall framework that I use
Mm-hmm.
in my business and in all of my coaching and consulting and strategy, it's something that I developed over 12 years now,
Right.
because of my PhD, because of the work that I did there and all of the research and everything. And what we know is that, especially when we look at positive psychology, neuroscience, um, psychology, and then leadership, organizational management, organizational behavior, um, all of these fields.
Mm-hmm.
What we know is that the foundation for all of us is mental well-being.
Exactly. You're right.
Because that actually determines everything else that comes after. Because
100%. 100%.
think about how you think of yourself when you're not feeling well,
Mm-hmm.
and think about how you think of yourself when you're having a good day,
Mm-hmm.
right? Think about what you think about your possibilities when you're having a good day versus when you're in a really bad mood.
Right, right.
So your mental well-being, and that's different from mental health or mental wellness. So mental health and mental wellness are more of, if they're kind of like physical health, right? Like
Mhm.
I'm feeling somewhat depressed. I'm feeling somewhat energized. Angry. Whatever health symptoms there are, also affect our mental capacity.
Mhm.
Mental well-being is in the word being,
Right.
who you are. So making sure that who you are is a well balanced person.
Right.
That's mental well-being. That's what makes it different. Mental health and mental wellness help us become this well-balanced person.
Right.
So mental well-being is always the foundation of everything. So when you are going on this journey to discover yourself, make sure it happens from a place where you feel balanced, where you feel
Right.
like you're neither boastful nor talking only negative about yourself, where you
Correct.
realize you're in a place where when you realize something positive or when you realize something negative, you're still going to treat them the same without judgment.
Right.
It's okay. It's okay. Positive, it's okay. Negative, it's okay. That's the space of mental well-being. Now, from that space, once you're in that space of mental well-being, and obviously that's going to take some time to get there and be grounded in that, then then you can think about your identity. Who am I? Who am I in
Mhm.
my workspace? Who am I in family? Who am I in community spaces and all of that? And the trick there is, I'll big, huge secret that's not a secret. You are the same person in all of those spaces.
Right, right, right.
If you don't think you are, something is disconnected and you need to reconnect that.
Right. However, let me ask you, because this is very interesting topic. Uh,
Yeah.
we are the same person, but sometimes we have to act differently. Let's say at home, or maybe being with children, you behave slightly different. In the family, is different. When we go in organization, in a business, you have to behave different. So, uh, I think those mental shift we do it for a reason, right? So, how do you think we should make that balance between well-being and uh, still keeping the balance between acting in different roles? Not
Right.
acting, I mean behaving in different roles.
Yes. So there is a difference, and that's another great question, right? Because there is a difference between your identity and your behavior.
True, very true.
You know, your behavior is what you're expressing in that moment, reacting to the other person,
Yeah, quite possible. Yes.
right? Or reacting to the situation. It's your behavior never happens in a vacuum. It always happens in groups, whether it's with kids, family, work, whatever. But
Correct,
who
correct,
you are is independent of all of those.
correct.
Your identity is actually, and so that's the myth we fall into. We think our identity is determined by how we act in all of these spaces. It's actually the reverse. If we can get a solid understanding of who we are, then those other forces on us in those situations, they weigh less. We are able
True,
to act more stably. We are
true.
able to respond more with confidence, but more from who we are at our core rather than reacting. We are able to be proactive. And that's so important, right?
And I guess you'll be in control in that situations at that time, right? Rather
Right.
than handing over the control to somebody else or the situation.
Yeah. And I'm going to use another example with a child. And I use a lot of examples with children because I have a 4.5-year-old. But You know, so many times we hear when kids do something, they make a mess or they get into trouble or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We often say, "You're making me angry."
Mm-hmm.
Is a child really making you angry as an adult? Or
Actually,
are you getting angry?
you are, yeah, we get angry, yes.
Right? But we automatically say that you're making me angry. Somehow they are the ones responsible for this anger that's coming out of us. No, we are.
Exactly. Well said.
You know, and that how so we even with adults, even no matter, that's what I mean by we should be the same person, because no matter what hats we wear, all of the thinking is still happening in the same head,
Exactly.
you know. And so if we stabilize that, and if we understand, if we learn how to think instead of what to think,
Ah, very good.
then we can be proactive, we can take that personal accountability. And when we take that personal accountability, we are able to talk about ourselves without feeling like we're being boastful or arrogant, or which is something that, you know, I personally had to get over coming from India to, you know, and being an Indian woman. You shouldn't talk about yourself, you know, because it's very prideful or
Yeah,
boastful,
and it's selfish, maybe. Yeah.
selfish, right? But we know here in America, for us to move forward in jobs, if we don't self promote, nobody else is going to promote us.
Yes, and quite honestly, not only America, everywhere in the world, because how would other people know about your skills and talents unless you tell them? You can't wait forever for them to understand and recognize the talent.
Exactly. And how would, and on the flip side of it, how would other people know, you know, all of these performance reviews and everything where they tell you, oh, you have to improve on all of this, you have to work on this, you have to work on that. To some extent, again, on the behavior end, yes. But on what's going on inside of you, how would anybody else know until you did the work yourself, until you said,
Exactly.
until you owned up to it and said, hey, I have to improve on how I communicate certain things. I have to improve on how transparent I am about my capacity. You know, so being able to take that ownership comes from mental well-being and comes from that solid identity. Once you have that solid identity set up, your purpose, your vision, your mission, your goals, your benchmarks, your KPIs, those are almost inevitable,
True.
you know, because you are grounded solidly. So now every time you see an opportunity, you are able to immediately assess how well it aligns with you.
Correct.
And if you want to explore that, if you want to take that risk, or wait for a different opportunity.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, very good, very good. So, Dr. AJ, so do you have any tips or success mantra for people, who want to, make that invisible visible?
I do.
Would you mind
it,
sharing with us, please?
it's not really a mantra, but it's like a reminder for
Mm-hmm.
me every single day. So every day I do my mindset work and, you know, all of that, which is, I think every coach on this planet recommends mindset work because it is so important. Your mindset is so important for your success, for your confidence, for your leadership, and all of that. But
Correct.
so the reminder I give myself is no matter what I'm doing,
Mm-hmm.
how well does this align with my Shakti,
Mm-hmm.
with my inner fire? And
Right.
how, you know, how draining is it going to be with, in terms of my energy management?
Right.
Right? So based on all of that, I usually have like a few things that I tell myself, but that's like the basis of it. So one of them really is that I'm excited to learn something new about myself today.
Uh-huh.
You know, I wake up with that. And it doesn't matter even if I wake up on the wrong side of the bed because I barely slept well or my neck has a crick or whatever it is. I always say, I am excited to learn something new about myself today. I am excited to expand myself, even if it's just this much.
Yes, that
Even
puts you,
that
I
is
guess, in a
expanding.
very different mindset than just thinking and maybe cursing yourself. Some people wake up in the morning maybe worrying about the day or what happened in the past, or maybe confused mindset. Yeah,
Yeah.
so this is very
And
good mindset. You put that in at the beginning of the day.
yeah, yeah. And at the, so overall, um, what it like, oh, one of my favorite things I like to tell myself all the time throughout the day is the universe is constantly expanding. Who
Hmm.
the hell do I think I am to not?
Oh yes, true.
If I am a part of the universe and the universe is constantly expanding, who do I think that I've already finished growing?
Right,
Who do I
right,
think
right.
I am?
Exactly.
And that's not really a negative talk. You know what I mean? That's
No, it's
really
not
me
negative. It's
putting myself
encouraging,
in
empowering, I guess, because that puts our mind in a very different mindset and perspective, so that you actually go in the day, or walking through your life with some sense of expanding yourself, growing new skills, or like facing the challenges head on, instead of going into the shell and worrying and being
Yeah.
passive about that.
Anytime I get worried, or anytime I feel unsure, or anytime I get scared of, oh God, is this gonna hurt me? Is this gonna help me? I don't know. I literally go back to that. The universe is constantly expanding. Who am I to think I'm not gonna grow today? Who am I to deny myself that growth today and the opportunity for that growth?
Right, right, right.
Right, so that definitely, like, helps me ground myself. And of course, different people may have different ways of saying it. Again, the one thing I would recommend is don't make it negative self-talk. Like,
Hmm.
it is easy to twist that and say, oh, I must not be a full human being because I haven't grown. No, you haven't. It's still, you've grown, it's just invisible to you and you have to see it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Dr. AJ, thank you so much. I learned so many things just this short span of time, and I guess at the same time our viewers as well, because the way you said no at the beginning of the day, the way you put yourself in the right mindset, and then the example that you gave about the children, and at the same time the universe expanding, that actually helps us with the practical ways to unleash our hidden potential. As you rightly said, making invisible visible. So once again, thank you so much. Uh,
Absolutely.
so my dear friends, those of you who watched the interview, I'm sure you would love to contact Dr. AJ for any extra help you need. I will put her contact details somewhere around the video. Feel free to reach her. She has a wealth of wisdom. So go ahead and reach with her. And at the same time, Dr. AJ, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. And we learned definitely a lot from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And one last thing I'll say is, if anyone, especially right now, with COVID and everything else
Yes,
happening, a lot of people are experiencing burnout, which
true.
also gets into everything we spoke about today about having that confidence and that leadership presence and the mindset and all of that. I do have a video on LinkedIn called AJ's 5 top tips to beat burnout, or something like that.
Oh, cool.
It's on LinkedIn. So I highly recommend that. I do go over more of these tips and practices on how you can, at least for the short term, effectively manage your burnout feelings, your feelings of fatigue at work, and your feelings of, oh God, what is the point of all of this?
Right, right,
Those
right.
sort of feelings. So I highly recommend that anybody who's experiencing
And
this, watch it.
quite honestly, then, because Dr. AJ, if you can send me the link, I'll be quite happy to put that link in the comments, because those of you who will be watching this video, it will be very much, it's like added bonus for them to go through that video. So after this interview, I will take the link and I will put that in the comments as well. So all the viewers, they will get that benefit of watching that video as well.
Thank you. So that sounds great. And thank you again, Nilesh, for having me on here. This was
it's our
amazing.
pleasure. It's our pleasure.
And I'm, excited with what you're doing with WIN, and I think it is so necessary, and it is such a marvelous initiative. So I really commend you for doing this.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. AJ. I'm so very passionate about hearing more about you as well, and at the same time the work you do, and looking forward to that tips video as well. So I will, along with this interview, when I publish, I will also put that link. So once again, thank you so much, and see you soon.
Bye.